I taught my bird to whistle like a referee. I can make a free throw when I'm down on one knee. I've been a fan of basketball since I was 5. Now I am a fan of HoopSpeak Live. Hilarious analysis, a mystifying trope. An angel with a cudgel breaking bubbles of soap. Like honeybees buzzing around a hive. Yeah, everybody buzzing about HoopSpeak Live.
Hey, welcome to HoopSpeak Live. I'm Beckley Mason. Today, we were going to have as our guest Tom Haberstroh, but instead of him, we are going to have guest host Tom Haberstroh. He will be with us for the whole show. Zach isn't here, but we will have Ethan Sherwood-Strauss and Tom Haberstroh with us for the duration, which is going to be great because we have got a lot to talk about. Email hoopspeaklive@gmail.com. Audience questions, tweets at hashtag HoopSpeakLive. All right, gentlemen, welcome. How are we doing?
Warriors, 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 Warriors. That's all I have to say in the intro.
Yeah, I'm not ready to say that the Warriors are going to really do much tomorrow, but good for you, Ethan. Good for you.
Wow. By the way, you're supposed to have a rooting interest, I think. But yeah, the Warriors are surprising. They are good. They're 14-7, and probably more meaningful than that, they play a really fun style of basketball, pushing the ball up court with multiple point guards, and then Thompson on the wing. David Lee playing like an all-star. Ethan, are you starting to be overwhelmed, or is the skepticism holding out still?
It's a battle. It is a competitive battle between natural skepticism slash fear and the building, burbling enthusiasm within me. And yes, in theory, I should be objective, but I got into this quasi-business from impassioned screeds on the side scroll of SB Nation, Golden State of Mind, railing against whatever Don Nelson was doing. So obviously, I'm not objective, and I retain some element of fandom, and I want to see the Bay Area's team to do well. I want to see basketball succeed here. And look, objectively, they're pretty good. And even though their point differential is rather weak, it happened amid them missing a bunch of shots in the early going. So it might be a little deceptive. And, you know, obviously something calamitous could happen around the corner, especially injury-wise, because it's the Warriors. But this roster, as it stands, is above average, and I'm enjoying the hell out of it.
Tom, you're not buying them?
Well, I actually before the season, I don't know if Ethan you remember this, but I called them as a breakout team that they were going to make the leap this year because Stephen Curry was going to be healthy, or at least I was hoping he was going to be healthy, so I'd look good. But and then I said Andrew Bogut was going to be the defensive presence that they've always lacked, and sure enough, I'm kind of half right in that Stephen Curry has really propelled this team to where they are. They've done it without Andrew Bynum. I mean, did I say Bynum? Bogut.
Same difference.
So at this point, I'm not willing to really say that it's all legit, but I am encouraged by the fact that Stephen Curry has been on the floor. And I just got back from Heat practice, and Eric Spoelstra was just kind of shaking his head at how good Stephen Curry is with his shot. He has never had a shooter like that on his team until this year with Ray Allen. So it'll be an interesting matchup for sure.
Yeah, I've been singing Steph Curry's praises for some time, and in my opinion, he's a much better player than people realize because his efficiency has been compromised by all of the ankle injuries. If healthy, the dreaded if healthy, he's awesome. He's incredible, and a lot of people are down on him in the local area, in part because of the injuries, and in part because he doesn't fit the paradigm of pure point guard. I know with Matt Steinmetz, that's always been an issue for him, but when you can shoot,
popular there.
Monte Ellis was hugely popular there. Related, Warriors fans might not have been presented with the best basketball by which to inform them as to who's good and who isn't good. Those two might be connected. I think what's strange about the Warriors, and what I certainly didn't see coming, was that they're missing 2 of their 5 best players in Andrew Bogut and Brandon Rush. I guess in the long term, I believe it's no Bogut, no playoffs. He has to come into the fray and make an impact for them to sustain this at some point. But I'm bewildered and delighted by their ability to still be good despite losing 2 of their main 5.
Yeah, I really enjoyed watching Curry, not only in his shooting, which is just like he had basically a supernova game against Brooklyn where he was pulling up with like 3 guys on him, and it was very Davidson-esque. But his passing, and Ethan, maybe you can describe this better, but the way that he's passing out of pick and rolls and making decisions, I think a lot of people see him as sort of on that Ty Lawson level, but he really does seem to be kind of climbing his way into more elite territory this year.
Well, isn't that interesting that after those deals were signed, I think Ty Lawson was more the sure bet, and then Steph Curry was the big wild card. And so far, it's only been like 20 games or so. It's been the complete opposite.
Oh yeah, and I was very much a proponent of the Lawson signing. He's made me look really stupid. The Nuggets have been making the geeks among us look bad, and I resent them for that. Just like I resented LeBron James for making analytically minded people look bad in the 2011 Finals. But yeah, Steph Curry can pass. We would see a little bit more of that if he was more athletic, because you open up avenues to pass through when you can actually beat your man off the dribble and get into the paint. Obviously, he's a little wild with the ball. He throws a lot of bad one-handed passes, but he can run a pick and pop really effectively, and he's got that behind the back pass out of the pick and pop down pat.
And the hook pass, right? That one he throws over his head back
yeah.
to me is a good one. All right, we had last night, shifting topics here, we had last night a relapse into Linsanity. 38 points, 12 free throws, 7 assists, shot over 50% for one of the only times all year. What did you guys think? Did you watch it? Is this something to care about, or just sort of random statistical noise and a lot of shot attempts?
Well, I would just say, sorry, Ethan, I would just say that I wish that Jeremy Lin had a spot-up jump shot. Like he could spot up next to James Harden. That's the big thing that I want to say that they fit together and they're a good complement for each other. But that is a huge drawback for me, is that that Jeremy Lin just isn't great off the ball as a shooter. And with James Harden, that would be huge for him to be able to just spot up. It's the same thing with Dwayne Wade. When I think we were talking about this at the end of the last season, is if he wants to maximize where he is on this team with the Heat, he's got to work on his spot-up shooting. And same thing with Jeremy Lin. If you have a pick-and-roll distributor or a distributor you can hit everyone on the wing, like James Harden and LeBron James, I just wish that he had that element in his game, because I really want to have these two guys work, because I'm a huge proponent of Jeremy Lin and James Harden. Big fans.
Yeah, I definitely, when Jeremy Lin was getting sent to Reno in the D League a couple of years ago, I definitely foresaw him being compared to Dwayne Wade in a way that wasn't humorous. I definitely saw that coming. I agree with a lot of what Tom said. They don't fit together, and it's kind of more Lin's fault if we're assigning faults or blame to it than it is Harden's, because of his inability to space the floor. And also, as bad as he's been on that spot-up shot, he's been worse off the dribble. And I wonder with the Rockets in the early season, they've been just adopting a strategy of taking a lot of threes. But as smart a strategy as that is, you need to do it wisely. You can't just take a bunch of crazy threes. And their three-point percentage hasn't been all that impressive, in part because I think that they've been pursuing shooting a lot of threes, and not knowing exactly how to do it in the way the Knicks have done.
Well, see, there's an element of value, though, right? Even if you take, I think part of the reason why they take crazy threes is because it spaces the floor, and even if it doesn't go in, I think there is some value. I'm not saying this is the Kobe assist or anything like that, but there is some value in just spacing the floor and having guys out on the perimeter, even if the shot doesn't go in. I think that's not all bad if they're not a great three-point shooting team.
The bigger problem seems to be that they can't finish at the rim. They're shooting terribly at the rim and leaving a lot of points there. My thing on Lin is watching him last night, didn't you get the sense when you were watching him like go around Gary Neal, for instance, that if Lin could have the ball in his hands all the time and a slightly worse defender, he would be a very dynamic off the bench guard, which is something that probably people have said before. But I just think that I see them finding a point guard who fits really well with Harden, and then being able to bring Lin off the bench and go 3 guards, or give Lin control of the team against a slightly worse defense.
Yeah, I believe that's the solution. That's the middle, because Lin otherwise is stuck between a rock and a hard place, to use a cliche, because he needs to dominate the ball to be effective, and you don't exactly want to trust him with all that responsibility, or to be the guy who runs your team's offense. And with his shaky shooting, it's hard to do that. But bringing him off the bench to spell somebody else, you can kind of split the difference there, and it makes sense. I want to say that I do endorse the Rocket strategy of shooting a bunch of threes. I just think that they're not exactly fine-tuning it as well as perhaps some other teams. And it's one thing to have an idea of what you want to do, and another thing to implement it successfully.
When you said the Knicks are shooting tons of threes, and you just published something this afternoon that was really interesting, I thought comparing who's, not just who's better, but within the Knicks and what they want to do, who's more important, Tyson Chandler and Carmelo Anthony. You cover the Heat, Tom, obviously. When the Heat are taking on the Knicks, who is the person that gives them the most trouble, and where do you stand on kind of Tyson versus Carmelo?
I'm Team Tyson, and I think the Heat would agree with me. I know Eric Spoelstra is terrified of Tyson Chandler. He talks about this thing called vertical spacing,
right,
where there's floor spacing, where you basically spread the floor and with shooters, and one guy in the paint, and you have 4 shooters on the perimeter. And he says that there's only one guy in the league who can maybe match Tyson Chandler as a vertical spacer, meaning you lob it up to him in the pick and roll and he can just finish it on command. He said maybe Dwight Howard can do that, but no one else. If Dwight Howard's not healthy, no one else can do it better than Tyson Chandler. And that whole offense is predicated on Tyson Chandler, not necessarily Carmelo Anthony. And what's interesting is Spoelstra does this really coy thing where the media will ask him, hey, you guys have handled Carmelo Anthony pretty well. Last time he shot 12 for 35 shooting. And Spoelstra will respond by saying, like, yeah, that's what you think. That's what you say, that we're handling pretty good. But I don't really think we are. But he knows. Yeah. He knows that he wants Carmelo Anthony shooting mid-range jumpers all night. Shane Battier, they're a student of the numbers. They know that Carmelo Anthony, when he takes a pull-up mid-range jumper, it's a losing affair. So I think they are more scared of Tyson Chandler, what he brings to the Knicks, and I'm on that boat too.
I don't think that there's been enough talk about how good Tyson Chandler's been. He's almost been a little like Steve Nash in this latter career prime, and how it's come almost out of nowhere. If you look at his past 3 seasons, if you include this season, it's just far outpaces anything he's done before. And right now his win share per 48 average is .288. That's a stat that it doesn't, Tom, I'm not going to lecture Tom on stats, but it's a stat that doesn't reward taking a shot in a vacuum as much as perhaps PER does, so that's why he shows up better there than he does in PER. But if you look at those numbers, especially, his numbers last year were better than Patrick Ewing in any season, and this year it's just far beyond what any other center is doing. And we can get into a nerdy discussion on how much it means to take a shot and how valuable you can be at a true shooting percentage of 73% while shooting only over 6 shots per game. But he's just been incredibly efficient, combined with the rebounding and combined with his ability to enable their spread pick and roll attack, combined with the defense. And my God, this guy's kind of a top 10 player, and we're not treating him as such.
Well, I can explain it in 2 numbers. The difference between what we are concerned about and what maybe the majority of the fans are. First number is 26.8, and the second number is 12.8. Those are their points per game. And I don't think any fan, casual fan, really looks at 12.8 and says superstar. So I think I think it's that right there is how many guys in the history of basketball besides Bill Russell, maybe Dennis Rodman, have been considered superstars with a points per game average below 13. So I think that's it pretty much there. Is it's really harder to quantify what Tyson Chandler brings, whereas I can just say 27 points per game, Carmelo Anthony is a beast. Whereas Tyson Chandler is a little more nuanced, and I have to again, you have to explain how much more valuable he is than what the reputation is by using win shares per minute with 228 that maybe the fans can't relate to.
That doesn't exactly resonate. The thing that's amazing about Tyson is this was the case in Dallas and also at the Knicks is, right, if you look at the team, how the team does offensively when he's on the court, you can really make a very strong case that he's maybe a better offensive player than he is, or more, just as valuable on offense, even though he does have the defensive player of the year. I worry about them because their backup center is Rasheed Wallace, and Rasheed Wallace will take like 15 seconds getting down court. Like his giving a crap meter is like all over the place. Like if
I thought you were gonna say 15 threes in 2 minutes, yeah. But go on.
I'm sure Rasheed is still averaging like 15 attempted threes per 36 minutes. I mean, he's just like going nuts out there. And if they have any problems with him, that'll really turn the offense totally onto Melo, and they won't have the same offensive rebounding that Tyson gives them because he really attacks the rim off of the pick and rolls when Felton, goes in there and flips something up. I want to talk about the Heat. We'll talk about their defense, which is something everybody's on, but I also want to talk about Wade, who was a little banged up at the beginning of the year. Some really stupid sports writers said some things that he didn't look right, that maybe he wasn't going to be playing well. Since then, he's kind of gone on a tear. Last 2 games, 80% from the field. Tom, is he back?
Kind of. Can I? Is that allowed? Can I say kind of? I know it's kind of a cop out, but
sports take is
Beckley,
not hot enough for HoopSpeak Live.
Yeah, so I got burned. Speaking of hot takes, I got burned last year. I went on Dan Le Batard's show right after Game 3. Dwayne Wade's just epic fail against the Indiana Pacers, and I said on record, I was like, you know what? If Dwayne Wade is not healthy, I think they're going to lose this series.
Right.
And they play that clip all the time now, along with Mike Wilbon.
The parade of gas bags.
All the guys, yeah, exactly. And they have 20 different radio guys who came on, and I was one of them. And so I have doubted Dwayne Wade before and looked like a complete moron. And when I read, Beckley, when I read your piece, I was like, I just pray that Dwayne Wade doesn't have a huge game because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. He's done it before. He's done it to me, and he made me look like a complete moron. And then, sure enough, that's what happened. So now we've talked about this before the show a little bit. I think it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors when he's hitting turnaround jumpers with Josh Smith contesting it right in his face. I mean, if Josh Smith is incredulous about how terrible a shot you just took, I think maybe you're playing a little bit out of your mind. So Dwayne Wade took a fadeaway jumper, 20-footer, on Josh Smith, and they both jawed back and forth on the way back down on the court. And Josh Smith didn't think that Dwayne Wade could hit that shot, and Dwayne Wade said, "Yeah, I can." And here's, watch this, and he hit it. But it is remarkable to watch Dwayne Wade because I think there's a little, and I do it all the time too, where we look at his style of play, we look at his age, and we look at LeBron on the other end of the court, how much work he's doing, and we're anxious to say, you know what, he's on his decline, and he's going to fall off. And that's what makes Dwayne Wade so good is I think he feeds off of this. And Charles Barkley kind of ripped him on Thursday and said that he was not washed up, but and Dwayne heard that. So I'm a little more reluctant to pull that trigger that Beckley you did, and I applauded you. But sure enough, it just flew back in your face. So it's going to happen again to me.
I thought he was injured and that this was a sign of the future.
I had that caveat too, and yet it doesn't get played on the radio. I said if he's not healthy, so we can play that game. But yeah, so Dwayne Wade is still really good, but I don't think he's all the way there, especially defensively. He is a big part of why the Heat aren't back in the top 5 defensively this year.
I want to say to anybody on this chat who doesn't watch or doesn't listen to the Dan Le Batard show to do so, because Tom almost occupies an archetypal role on that show as the stats guy. I'm a fan of it. I listen to it when I walk my dog. And not to get too off track, I just had this memory that I don't know if you're aware of, but I had this memory of Le Batard having this segment where he was asking his listeners how their evenings went after Heat playoff losses versus Heat playoff wins as far as the bedroom goes. Sort of a risque segment. And I remember this one guy calling up and going, when they win, I mean, me and the wife, it's just on. It's just on the bedroom. When we lose, it's just Haberstroh reaction grades. Like, that was depicted. That was depicted as the opposite. Just glumly scanning the Haberstroh reaction grades as the opposite of coitus, according to one Miami listener. So
I'm never gonna write those the same now. I'm gonna have this image in my head. Thanks, Ethan. My life was going so well until that. Oh, great.
Well, I wanted to say with Wade, do you have any numbers, not to put you on the spot, as to whether he shoots better off the dribble for three-pointers versus off the catch? Because it would seem to me that Wade has almost a penchant for dribbling a few times before he takes his three-pointers, and it's strange. I wonder, could he be a much better shooter if he wasn't doing that?
I looked at this before, like last year, and I haven't looked at it this year, but it's odd. He's just not that good at shooting. So I don't know if it really makes a difference whether he's off the dribble or he's catching, doing catch and shoot. But he's just not that great of a shooter. And as much as LeBron heat checks, Dwayne Wade does it like LeBron will maybe do a heat check after he's hit like 2 shots. But Dwayne Wade, as soon as like it touches the net, he's thinking about going where he's going to pull up on the next possession. Like he does that more than LeBron. And this year, this point last year, he actually didn't take any threes.
Right.
So it's funny to think about, where his game has evolved. Even just last year, he completely abandoned the 3-point game, and this year he's taking like a shot or 2 per game. But
yeah, and he's also driving. He doesn't drive as much, and he doesn't shoot as much. I mean, just like in shots per game and shots per attempts per game at the rim. And so I think he's going to have these performances, and he even said it. Sometimes I'm only getting 11 shots or 11 to 15 shots, and so sometimes I'm gonna each game. Let's say he gets to the rim 4 times. Sometimes Dwayne Wade's gonna go 1 for 7 on jumpers, and sometimes he's gonna go 6 for 7. And when he goes 6 for 7, it looks great, and when he goes 1 for 7, it doesn't. I wonder when the playoffs come around if he's gonna start shooting 19 times a game. If they're going to expand his role offensively, because if you cut Kobe off at 11 shots every game, you might have a lot of really terrible games that end up being 7 for 20 that would be 1 for 11.
Yeah. Well, we just had the other day, Dwayne was 3 for 13.
Right.
So that's what you're going to be dealing with. On one night, if he's hitting his mid-range jumpers, he's going to look like Kevin Durant out there. On the next, he just looks awful. So he needs to get to the line more. It's something that his free throw attempts numbers are down this year. Same goes for LeBron James. I think more so LeBron, free throw attempts are down. So I think Dwayne Wade and LeBron both need to get to the free throw line just so that it balances out those high variability with the mid-range jumper and just 3-point shots. In order to balance that out, I think they need to get to the line more.
Tom, in the pre-show, you said that you had a stat that would make me angry when we were setting up, and you were very demure. You were very like, I'm not going to, reveal, and Beckley egged you on to keep it a no spoilers kind of thing. So I want to know, what have you been hiding? What is this?
Well, I've been kind of working on some. This is just because I just want to get back at you for that story about heat reaction grades and losing. But anyway, this stat I just came across this morning. I think there are something like 20 3-point shooters who have taken at least 30 corner threes this season. Who has the worst field goal percentage on those corner threes?
I'm gonna go with Steph Curry.
Nope.
Damn, I was gonna go
The
with something
greatest shooter
surprising
since
there.
Reggie Miller, right?
Oh, Clay.
Clay.
Klay Thompson
That's
is
not
the worst
surprising.
corner. Klay Thompson is the worst corner 3-point shooter in the league up to this point, and just this offseason he was being considered the best shoot. What was the exact quote? Maybe you can help me out. What was the exact quote?
You have to say it in
Well, I know that Klay Thompson is the greatest shooter since Reggie Miller. I don't know what the exact quote was. I was trying to do the Mark Jackson voice.
Well, yeah. So that's a trend this year, and I'm actually stunned because I was on board with Klay Thompson making the lead this year. And as far as corner threes, I feel like that would be his wheelhouse, but that's a really big trend that I did not see coming this year.
They don't shoot threes very much. Weirdly enough, the Warriors.
Yeah, they don't. I remember a few games ago I looked at Curry's numbers, and from the right corner he was something like 1 of 4. I believe that's changed now, and he probably has some more attempts there. But I was surprised to see so few attempts.
27.9%. 27.9% from the from corner threes. Do you know who's better?
Yeah.
You know who's much better is Jarrell Wright.
Doesn't surprise me, but then again with Klay Thompson, I don't know as far as how the numbers have gone for corner threes as a progression, but he was so hideously bad at the beginning of the season, and he's actually been pretty good in the past few games. So he might be just pulling out of that slump and correcting, and it might be correcting itself, or we might have some real reasons for concern. I find him to be a very difficult player to analyze just because he plays such a unique style of being off the ball and tricking his guy on screens. It's a bit of a throwback way to play for an off guard. And I wasn't in favor of that draft pick, actually, and I had to eat it in that rookie season because he was very impressive. So I just sort of defer to everybody else when it comes to analyzing Klay Thompson. I don't know what to expect of him, but I do know that I much prefer seeing him out there than seeing Monte Ellis.
Plays deep.
Yeah.
Amen. Now I know there's one guy that you've been we've talked about briefly about, but what have you seen with Chris Bosh as an outsider? And I'll explain to you what's going on from my seat here.
Well, I don't watch every Heat game, but it stood out to me, especially in the Knicks game, that he was just terrible on defense. Terrible in a few different facets of it. Obviously, off the switch with Ray Felton, he was getting torched, and while that's a difficult matchup for Bosh, he was putting up no resistance at all, and usually mobile big men do better off that switch. And when it wasn't a switch and when it was something like a trap or just a show, sometimes he had his hands at his waist and the ball was zipping right by him to Rasheed Wallace or Tyson Chandler, and it just, I mean, I started watching him in the playoffs, and he was a lot better than some of what I've seen in the early season. And I'm just wondering, what's up with Bosh? Has he been as bad defensively as it seemed to me subjectively?
Well, what's interesting is LeBron James, after that Knicks game, he had pretty much a triple-double. He was an assist short, and then he went out and did a workout after the game. Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh couldn't have left the locker room quicker. I mean, they were in and out. They just basically threw on their clothes and gone. I didn't even get to see Dwayne Wade because he went so fast. And LeBron made a statement and was like, "I got to get better. I got to get better for us to take that next step. I got to be better. I wasn't 100% tonight." And basically, he was calling out Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade by saying, "I get a triple-double. I carried the game, and yet I'm going to work out twice as hard after the game to get myself better. Why can't you guys get on my level of effort, of exertion?" And with Dwayne and Chris Bosh this year, I think that's the big question is, are they coasting? Are they not giving 100%? Whereas LeBron James is giving, if not 100%, 95% out there all the time. And I think he's looking at Chris Bosh, the same things you are noticing, where he's not going out, not showing on the pick and roll as hard as he used, not retreating back to the basket as hard as he used to, not protecting the rim as well as he used to. And same goes for Dwayne Wade on the perimeter. I don't think they're giving 100%. And LeBron James, because he's a freak of nature and he's just he's a cyborg, he can go all out for 45 minutes a game and feel like roses the next day. So he doesn't really need to. I mean, he can get in their face, but I think the message after the game when he did the workout was, get on my level, stop lollygagging on defense, and we shouldn't get blown out by a mellowless Knicks team by 20 points.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see if the Heat do kind of kick it up a notch, or if, I mean, on the one hand, you want them to be playing harder and better and winning more. On the other hand, it really doesn't matter if they're the 2 seed. And if that's what happens, I'm sure Spoelstra would trade energy in the playoffs for, top seed, home court.
And you know what? We could shave this down to 44 games this season. That's a whole nother discussion, but that would probably accomplish what we want.
Art of its plan.
Like that,
man. And then we'll adopt my banning free throws measure, and we'll turn basketball into the most exciting sport in the history of mankind. We'll take over football. I'm just trying to sneak that one in there.
Yeah, we'll see about that. All right. Well, this has been a jam-packed half hour, gang. Let's run to Dagger Smash Noted. And I think that my dagger will be that Jason Kidd is playing just like phenomenal basketball for a 38-year-old guy. He's shooting 50% from 3, which we know. He makes all the other Knicks shooters shoot a lot better from 3. This is why this goes in the dagger. And what's amazing to me is that as old as he is, he's the way his game can, he's basically the same player, like on the very, I think, core as he was when he was, an MVP candidate in his mid-20s. But we very rarely see a player with that kind of game, that kind of impact when they're young and athletic, be able to then continue to be, the 4th best player on the best team in his conference. I'm just really impressed, and I've been really enjoying watching him all year.
I'm going to do a smash at a different profession that's near our own profession, and that is football writing. I've read more football writing this year than in any year in the past, and perhaps I'm something of a cultural chauvinist when it comes to my sport and its writing versus others, but my God, is NBA writing just far beyond what you'll see from NFL blogging. Obviously, I'm not lumping in the Football Outsiders and some of the great stuff on Grantland with Barnwell and Chris Jones, but for the most part, it is just frothy and idiocy in the analysis of that sport. And I would cite the coverage of Cam Newton, for instance. I watch a lot of Cam Newton games.
Damn.
He's a very good player. His flaw is short-range accuracy. On short throws, he is sometimes inaccurate. He can throw just a beautiful ball 50 yards, but on a screen pass. Yeah. Well, but if you just do a search, you can barely find any mention of this. It's all about his attitude and all these subjective BS things that don't matter, and what he responded with in a press conference, and maturity. And it's just, are you guys stupid? Can you actually talk about the game as it happens? This is ridiculous. I can't believe the state of football writing. Perhaps it's because it's more popular. They don't need to cater to nerds. I don't know, but somebody's got to fix it, and I don't have the time.
It's a boring game, man. It's hard to write about. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, here's my note. Knicks fans, listen up. Since March 14th last year, since Mike Woodson took over, the Knicks record is 33-11. Only the Spurs have a better record during that span. So if you guys want to win your arguments at your Brooklyn bar tonight, just make sure you throw this out. 33-11. Only the Spurs have been better since Mike Woodson took over.
Good note. I'm going to that game tonight, and I've got I think I know the exact score. Knicks 109, Nets 94. No Brook Lopez.
That's how much better we are.
Hold on,
than
write
football
that
writing.
down.
We know the score before it happens.
The exact score
Writing
is
it
down, and I'm 98% sure that this is what it'll end up. All right. Thanks, Tom, for coming on and hanging out for so long. Thanks to everyone who watched. James for producing. Ethan, thanks for. We'll talk later.
Yeah, well,
Yeah. All right, Rob.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Take us out.
I taught my bird to whistle like a referee. I can make a free throw when I'm down on one knee. I've been a fan of basketball since I was 5. Now I am a fan of HoopSpeak Live. Hilarious analysis, a mystifying trope. An angel with a cudgel breaking bubbles of soap. Like honeybees buzzing around a hive. Everybody buzzing about HoopSpeak